We're getting closer to the weekend. Kind of settling into our bets, kind of settling into the odds that we're given. I'm on my book. I've been talking to some of the boys in America about if your book is allowing you to bet on some of these fights. Still no word on some of the method of victory for the African card. I'm hearing you guys aren't even getting the odds on the Japanese card. And so with that being said, what's up, Meech? We're going to wait last minute possibility to see if we can get some of the method of victories for the Africa card. I think that there are a lot of opportunities for us to make some money in that Africa card. I said it 2 days ago. I said it yesterday. I'll say it today. We're just gonna have to wait to see if the books are gonna let us pick stoppages, because that card in Ghana, the matchups are built for stoppages. I don't know who's in attendance in that crowd, but whoever put that card together, there's bloodshed. So right now, read the title of this video, though. I just uploaded my breakdown, analysis, and prediction of the Nonito Donaire versus Andres Campos fight. Guys, this is an opportunity for us to make some money. What's up, Rando? Regarding the odds. The last few weeks, we've been getting so many $4, $6, $7. Not a lot of 50-50 fights. I know there were two 50-50 fights that some of you boys hit on last week. Mac, what's up, buddy? You know, some of you guys hit on the Nair Albright fight, which, you know, props go to you. I didn't bet that fight. But for the most part, we haven't had a lot of fights that we could see an underdog having a path to victory. Guys, this is one of them. Mac, I agree with you. I just did my film study. Obviously, I have to say, and if you watch my breakdown, I'll tell you this over and over. Nonito Donaire at his best was one of my favorite guys to watch. I think a lot of us could admit that. He was, you know, instant energy, you know, in his prime, that left hook. When you think about fighters, you know, there's a lot of our favorite fighters, but a lot of our favorite fighters are sort of, you know, for instance, when I think about Roy Jones Jr., I think about Roy, you know, they called Roy Captain Hook for a reason. You know, Roy wouldn't throw his jab. Roy was in Roy's prime, one of my favorite fighters of all time. One of my favorite athletes of all time in his prime. Roy would jump in and jump out and throw his lead hook like a jab. And, you know, for a while, it was amazing. What's up, Goat? What's up, guys? I'm not comparing Nonito Donaire to Roy, but what I am comparing, Nonito Donaire has his own punch in his arsenal. In his prime, his left hook was iconic. It was a trademark punch of his. That is not the same guy. He's 42. Guys, we haven't seen Nonito Donaire fight since the undercard of Terrence Crawford versus Errol Spence Jr., which seems like it was 18 years ago. We know it was only in 2023. Come this weekend, it would be almost 2 full years. Guys, and we saw what Donaire looked like in that fight. Slow, sluggish, a lot of tread on the tires. And put it this way, if the Donaire from 2019, if that guy looked, when he first fought Naoya Inoue, Nonito Donaire, that was 2019. That was 6 years ago. He was still already 36 years old. But that version of Donaire would beat Andres Campos. He would. And I'm sure of it. That's not the same guy. Especially at 118 pounds. We know about the accolades. Donaire, 4-weight world champion, future Hall of Famer, 100% Max. So when I'm telling you guys that I'm picking Campos to win, I'm not hating on Donaire. I'm coming at it from this is a business decision. I think the odds, at least my sports book down here, I got Campos at almost, you know, he's 2-to-1 plus money. Granted, he's the smaller guy. He doesn't have one-punch knockout pop. But, Nathan, give me about 10 minutes. I'll get to the UFC. I want to focus. I'll answer your question. I want to focus on the topic real quick with Donaire and Campos. But Campos is fast. He's going to have the speed advantage. We know about boxing. We know what young energy means. I think he's going to win a decision. I'm going to just I'm taking Campos on the money line. I like that. I mean, it's a lot of value, guys. Campos on the money line. Down here, he's $3.30. You put $100 on him, you get your money. You get 230 back. Can Donaire make it to the 12? Guys, if you're siding with me and you think Campos is going to win, just take the money line, just so you don't have to get fancy. You know what I mean? Because the last thing you want to do is agree that Campos is going to win, and then you pick a stoppage or you pick a decision. Because the one thing Donaire does have, he has pop, but he's not the same guy, man. I don't want to see him fight. And guys, this is something that I haven't heard any of the other content creators talk about. I brought it up in my video, is that this is a interim title shot, meaning that whoever wins this fight has to fight Antonio Vargas at 118. Guys, I think the best for if I was Nonito Donaire's handlers, I wouldn't want him to win this fight unless he came back just for one fight. But we know what he said. He said that he saw Inoue against Cardenas. He said he got inspired to fight again, and he put his hand up. So my point is, if Donaire gets past Campos, which I don't think he will, I don't think he's going to win this fight, he then fights Antonio Vargas for the title. Do you know how much damage he's going to take? Just been announced as Nonito had a full... No. It hasn't had a full training camp. Didn't look good in his last fight in 2023. And I'm not... And you know, the thing about Campos... The thing about Campos is that at his best, watch the Sonny Edwards fight. We know Sonny Edwards recently retired. The Brits will know Sonny Edwards. It was a good fight. Well, those were his words. I mean, that's the interview I read. You know, Donaire said that that's what inspired him to make another comeback, was watching Inoue versus Cardenas, and he said that he could still go. But we know what happened the second time against Inoue. The second time against Inoue was not the same guy who fought him the first time. So I don't like the fight. Rando, Hitchens moneyline, Norman moneyline, Andy, not to love it. What's that pay? I love Sonny. Yeah. So Campos fought Sonny really well. Yeah, Sonny is a great fighter. He's fun to watch. Great personality. And so that being said, Campos fell short against Sonny. Not one punch, not... Rando, love those odds, mate. Plus 190. Come on, go heavy on that. I thought he was a take-it fight. I guess, Mac, you know, we could only dissect a fighter's words at 42 years old. Also, you have to remember, Manny just got inducted into the Boxing Hall of Fame. Donaire was there as an honorary guest. I don't know what to make too much of that. You know, I mean, sometimes you know how these fighters are. You know, Donaire at one time was must-see TV, meaning, you know, and then he had the whole country, the Philippines, around him, and, you know, the flash, the viral knockouts. It's hard to give all that up. It's hard to give all that up and walk away from it. I can only imagine a future Hall of Famer, four-weight world champion, you know, knowing Manny Pacquiao's career. I know, Mac. I'm not... It's weird that we're seeing this, right? Like, I'm not happy about... Just as much as I'm not happy about Manny fighting Barrios, I kind of feel the same here. But, I mean, Donaire, man, he did not... Guys, did you watch that last fight? What's up, Kiyomi? Appreciate it. Rando, where are you tuning in from? Guys, wherever you're tuning in, could you remember to like this video? That's all I ask from you. Just like it. It'll help the video pop up. Keep the conversation going. We are almost 10 minutes in. We went live earlier today to talk about Richardson Hitchens. This one I'm focusing on, obviously, the feature. This fight goes down in Buenos Aires, Argentina. And it's part of this whole card, Knockout Drugs card. But Donaire is making a return. I love the money on Campos. And guys, even if it was a 50-50, even if the money was the opposite, I know, DJ. Even if the money was opposite, I would still take Campos. Just so you guys know, I'm not taking Campos because of the odds. I think you guys know that by now. 10 rounders has a 12 rounder and 6 fights. That's insane. GOAT, we know about Cruz. Andy Cruz has been fast-tracked, but I mean, 5-0, 2 stoppages. We'd like to see him fight more world-class guys. I think we're going to make money. Upset, happy that you're agreeing. Yeah, Mac, I would take Campos even if he was the favorite. Just, yeah, I whenever I'm breaking videos down and I upload them on my channel, I'm as honest as I could possibly be. I'm viewing it from the eyes of, I mean, I'm 43. I've been watching the sport since I can remember. My dad took me to a stadium when I was 5 years old, 1987. I watched Boom Boom Mancini. The first live fight, The first live fight I ever watched was Ray Mancini. I was 5. He's from my hometown. So that being said, I'm never going to tell you guys I'm betting on a fight based off of odds. Just got to put that out there. Round 12, if it was an 8-rounder, I'd be hesitant. Andy Cruz, right, Goat? And the closer we get to the weekend to turn the page on, Rafael Luna, my man. I sparred yesterday and schooled some amateurs. I'm 43. Rafael, good boy. Got to get it. I still do the same thing. But I play it more. I don't know. Sparring amateurs, yeah, I keep it safe. Goat, for Andy, the closer we get to fight night, Goat, and if you would have tuned in the live stream on Monday, Mac and Goat, I was leaning on Andy Cruz to stop him on Monday. That was the first video I did this week. The first breakdown I did this week was Andy Cruz versus Mishiro. And in my breakdown, if you haven't seen it, I told you guys, Mishiro is a domestic level Japanese fighter. 17-1. Yes, he's never been stopped. But look at his resume. Andy Cruz, when I'm weighing the options, when you ask yourself, is Mishiro good enough to beat Andy Cruz? I don't think so. Is Mishiro good enough to last the distance? You got to answer that question. Is Mishiro good enough to not get stopped? You know what I'm saying? So those are the 3 questions I ask myself. I don't know if Mishiro's good enough to not get stopped. And so whenever I ask myself those questions, I can see him getting stopped. I think Hitchens' fight goes the distance. Yeah, George Kambosos is a dog. He's going to be there. You know, if Hitchens had a little bit more pop, I think for my 2-leg parlay method of victory, I think I'm really convincing myself as of late to take Cruz by stoppage and then Hitchens by decision. But Javi, that's what I have to ask and Javi, I do that with all of when I'm putting money on fights. Mar the Prince, Mercado money line, Campos money line. Love it. Odds are crazy. Mercado odds are nice. I think if Cruz gets the stoppage, I think 7-12. I could see it happening. So many people wrote off Hitchens in the Perro fight, but dude, I picked Liam. And this is why boxing is a sport of what, guys? What have you done for me lately? Sometimes that works against us. The Liam Paro I saw against Subaru Matias, you know, living in Australia, seeing the media down here spinning the narrative of Paro going to Puerto Rico to take on the most feared fighter at 140, a guy with a 100% career knockout to win ratio, and Paro goes into Puerto Rico, doesn't get knocked out, and wins the belt and becomes a world champion. I'm like, holy crap. He then rolls that over. I'm like, he's going to beat Africa. I'm like, Paro just did that against Matias. But then when you think about it in hindsight, Hitchens comes down to Puerto Rico. That's where they fight. He beats Paro by split decision. When you look at the styles make fights, Paro, you know, he avoided Matias's backhand. He used his movement and his boxing IQ to not get hit. But he took some shots against Matias. So Matias had his moments against Liam. So Hitchens sees that fight, and then his game plan against Paro was to use the jab at his own range and win as many rounds as can, and he won a close decision. So it's interesting. Now, I still think Richardson-Hitchens is due for a viral moment. I do think Richardson-Hitchens is good enough to have that career moment. He hasn't had one yet. No one's talking about it. I think he's a world champion. We haven't seen him have his moment yet. I think Hitchinson loses to Matias styles, make fights. Edson does not do good, but back foot fighting pressure fighters. And that we have to talk about that too. Is good enough to beat Teo. Josh, and it's a question since we're here. GAR, Playo, Teofimo, and Hitchens, the 4 world champions at 140. We talked about it all week. Do you see Hitchens beating any of those? Because I don't see GAR losing to Hitchens. I don't see Playo losing to Hitchens. I think Alberto Playo beats Hitchens. I think Teo beats Hitchens. I do. I think Teofimo beats Hitchens at 140. But that could change if this weekend Hitchens goes out, fights on the front foot, and knocks George out. Crawford always deserves so much more mainstream. Yeah, I mean, you know how I feel about Bud. You know, Bud had to go at 135. Bud had to go fight in the UK. You know what I mean? And he's been on record saying, other than Omaha, Nebraska, at one time when he knocked out Ricky at 135, he said other than Omaha, he had more fans in the UK, which is insane. I think Matias KO's Playo. I don't think so. I don't think so. I think Alberto Playo boxes the socks off of Matias. Alberto Playo is a good boxer, guys. Playo is a really slick southpaw. He's long for the division. He has enough power. The Playo from rounds 5 onwards against GAR is high level. Now, Sandor Martin, I thought Sandor Martin, if he would have just turned his volume up a bit, I bring him up all the time. Talk about a what if in terms of the close decisions that guy loses. You got to put Martin up there losing close decisions. Tevin Farmer losing close decisions. But I think Martin's even a bigger case. If he would have just turned the dial up slightly against Alberto Playo, he could have won that fight. But Martin's a great boxer. Great all-around skill set. He's good at range. He's good in the pocket. Doesn't have one-punch power, but I think that Matias, he's way more one-dimensional than Sandor Martin. Matias, you circle away from his right hand. I mean, it sounds easier enough. Southpaw versus orthodox. It's going to be the game of the front foot. Playo likes using the whole ring as well. When you look at the space of how he fights, he's not, and Matias wants to fight in that phone booth. So it's easy. It's easy to game plan for in fight camp. It's easier for us to say it from here as well. What has to happen? I don't see Playo making the mistake and losing to Matias. Farmer's I'm taking Tevin Farmer to beat Floyd. I know that you guys asked me yesterday. I haven't changed my mind. That's not even supposed to be a hot take. Tevin Farmer's world class. His skill set. The guy could box. Watch the last Zapata fight. He impressed me again in his 30s. Loses close decisions, and even coming up to that, when he left weight classes and he moved up, he's durable. Tevin's durable. He does a lot of things really well. I think his tools. I don't know who wins that yet. I'm not impressed with Floyd Schofield. I say it all the time. I'm not impressed. He's more, I know the marketability is there. I know the name Kid Schofield. He has a lot of fans online. From a boxing purist perspective about what he does in the ring versus what Tevin Farmer does, I don't even think it's close. I don't think it's close. It's kind of, I see why Farmer got stronger. Yeah, Farmer got old man strength. We're gonna make so much bread from that, Matias. Goat. I know, because hopefully this is one of those fights, Playo Matias, where there's gonna be a lot of money on the puncher. A lot of money on the puncher, and that's where bettors take advantage of the casual aspect in boxing in Vegas. I sparred Rafael. I sparred Abraham Nova could box. All right, mate. You got some good rounds. You got some skills. Those are some good names, man. I'm gonna be there live in New York. I can't wait for that card. There's some good boxing coming up. Even this, like I said, I don't know if everyone's still high on Brandon Glanton, but I am. I always bring him up, even though he's coming off that Chris Billum Smith loss. Glanton's fighting this weekend. I'm doing a video, but I'm waiting to get the odds. He's like $1 He's gonna win by knockout. Even an over distance prop could be great money. Somebody who, if you're on the live stream this morning, do you guys remember the guy saying that Donaire was smoking cigarettes and everybody in the Philippines are expecting him to lose? Morel's going to beat Kataev. Yeah, Kataev didn't look. Aman Kataev. So Aman Kataev is a fighter who's signed with Jim Cambosis. So the Aussies down here know who Aman Kataev is. I've covered him before. I think he's 9-0, maybe 10-0. We saw in his last fight, he started to fade a bit. David Morel should beat him. David Morel I'm a big fan of David Morel. I think that Morel is going to take a lot from that David Benvdz fight. Benvd's class was just more. When you looked at how they boxed, Benvd's ring generalship, I don't want to necessarily say fight IQ, but if you rewatch the Morel fight, we covered it here. I picked Benvdz to win. We were right on that one. When they were mixing it up, you could see how one-dimensional Morel's game plan was. You could see what Morel wants to do before the round even starts. Are you picking Nonito to win? No, Rocky. No, I'm not. I'm taking Campos. Now, I explained it why, Rocky, and you could watch the video I just uploaded, and I give you my reasoning why. I just think at 42 years old, what we saw from Nonito, he's not the same guy. Man, he didn't look good 2 years ago, hasn't fought in 2 years. So, yeah, I'm taking Campos, even though Campos is the lighter guy coming up. And, 28 versus 42. Donaire has so many miles on him, man. He's lost a lot. And then for sure, bro, I knew Morel would give Benvdz problems, but I never expect him to wobble him. Just shows how good of a Cuban amateur. I mean, and the Cuban program, there's that weight class. I mean, Iglesias right now, Yenli Hernandez right now, some of the bigger boys, and obviously we got at the smaller weight classes this weekend, Andy Cruz. Whenever you come out of that amateur pedigree from Cuba, man, you're going to know how to handle yourself in the ring. I just think that Morel might have underestimated Benvdz' class in there. Benvdz that fight impressed me with how, because we know Benvdz, he doesn't always have to be. We've seen him come back. Like he's been I don't want to say challenged. He's been tested before. You know what I mean? He doesn't back down. You can't bully David Benvdz, mate. He's still young. What a great fighter. Morel kind of reminds me of a bigger Edwin De Los Santos. The thing about Morel too, when we think about when David Morel enters the pocket or when he's willing to engage. This is what I meant earlier. We could see it from the corner. You could tell what Morel wants to do before he's even at range or even closes the distance. And I think at the world level, that's easy for an opponent like Benvdz to negate. Now, I think Benvdz took maybe shots he didn't have to take, but he's a fighter. So I'm expecting the version of Morel against Aman Katayev in this next fight. I'm expecting Morel, hopefully we see a little bit more versatility on his offensive entrances because we know he's willing. We know he has the power, his explosion. We know he is athletic. Katayev is going to be dangerous for the first few rounds. Aman Katayev is a hell of an athlete as well. He's durable. But in his last fight, if you would have watched it, it was down here in Australia. We covered it. He throws a lot on every punch. So what you want to see from that guy is be able to go through the gears a bit more wiser. Don't throw everything on every punch. So we'll see the game plan on Morel. Morel's going to want to come and shine. What happened to Boo Boo? Mate, good call. We haven't seen. Where is Demetrius Andrade, man? Is he in Rhode Island somewhere? What happened to him? You lose one. Come on. Is he being avoided? Is he injured? I know he's, 36 now, 37? But, damn. That's a guy nobody mentions right now. And, he was an X factor for a long time. I want to see him fight. What do you think, John Fernandez versus Ricardo Nunes? It's taking place in Spain. Rafael, is that this weekend? I got a message about that. If that's this weekend, it's hard for me to comment on it because I haven't done my film study. Swindle. They froze him out. So that's what I'm hearing down here. Think Andrade retired. He ain't fought in almost 2 years. I don't think he's retired, though. Do you think Usman could win? All right, there you go. All right, Nathan, I got you now, brother. Do I think Kamaru Usman could beat Buckley? Guys, when you give me a couple minutes to answer this. When you look at Usman's career, when you look at the how many miles he has on his career, what he was at his best, the one thing that we can learn from watching the UFC is as these fighters age, especially former champions, it's hard for the fan base because the sport only goes back to 1993. That's when the November 11th, 1993. The reason why I'm referring to that timeline is that the fans are newer. Boxing goes back centuries, right? Fighters, it's easier for boxing fans to look at a fighter, look at an aging champion, similar to Donaire, what we're about to see, and you kind of have a pattern of behavior, a sort of form of predictability on what's going to happen when an aging former champion is fighting a young guy with the energy behind him, who trajectory of his career is here, and the champion, the trajectory is here, and he's trying to get back there. I totally expect Buckley to beat up Usman. Like his explosion, his explosivity, his power, Buckley's willingness to get dirty. We saw it. Look at his most recent form. how he makes his opponents look. He fights world-class opponents as of late, and he makes them look really average. And then you learn about Joaquin Buckley that he learned to fight watching YouTube videos. He was on, I think it was on Rogan, he was talking about, who's the kid? I just posted a photo with me and this guy I'm talking about. I was doing a documentary in 2020 following the Lethwei world champion around named Dave Leduc. And we were going from Myanmar to Cyprus, and we're in LA, and we go do this podcast with this kid from Philly who lives in LA called Fight Tips. And Shane, this guy's Shane. I don't know if you know Shane. And Buckley said on the Joe Rogan podcast, before he had ever hired a coach or been to a gym, he learned how to fight from martial arts movies and watching Shane Fazen's YouTube channel. This is Buckley. You think about that to what we saw against Impa Kasagane in his, I think that was one of his first fights, and Buckley was the underdog, and that's the fight where Impa tries the wheel, spinning round kick, and Buckley gets the kick caught. He gets his kick caught, and then he kicks it, knocks him out. It was one of the most viral knockouts you ever see. And then you look at Impa, what he went on to do in his career. He goes in the PFL and wins $1 million tournament. So it's not like Impa was a wash. Impa was a really good fighter. So yeah, I think Buckley's going to start. And also when you take into consideration that Kamaru Usman doesn't have knees. This has been well documented. This isn't hearsay. This isn't conspiracy. Usman's knees are so bad that you could find footage of the guy having to walk downstairs backwards. And he's young, and it's heartbreaking to hear. But this lifelong grappler, lifelong wrestler. We know about that rivalry he had with the kid from American Top Team. It's hard for me to transition from boxing to MMA. The white kid, Colby. And when Colby was calling Kamaru Usman Marty, because Usman I think wrestled at a junior college in Nebraska, and he was a Division II school, and he went by the name Marty, so Colby kept calling him Marty, and then he released that footage of Usman not even being able to walk, and then Usman addressed it on the first time he was on Rogan like 3 years ago, maybe 5 years ago, and he said during fight night he's able to just forget about the pain. So he doesn't have knees, and Buckley's an explosive kicker, and he's an explosive grappler, and even if you cancel the grappling out, the tread on the tires with Usman and where Buckley's at in his career, the energy he brings to the table, I think that's a good. I don't know what those odds are. I haven't looked at them, but I would take Buckley, crawling around the house like the Exorcist. Yeah. So hopefully I answered your question, Nathan. But boxing, as you guys know, I do the channel of boxing. But if you do have MMA questions asked, I know I won some of you guys money last week. I told you to take Mario Batista. I told you Mario Batista was going to beat Patchy Mix. He beat him. I also told you about my boy Joshua Van, what he was going to do against a really tough opponent. He won by stoppage. I won a lot of money on that prop bet. Joshua Van just put his hand up to fight Raw Dog. I don't know if that was official, if some of you guys know more than I do, to see if he did get the Brandon Royval fight, because that would be a fight fan's spectacle. Hopefully he got it. I don't know. We'll see what happens. Love your channel, brother. What fights do you recommend this week? What fighters do you recommend this week? I've been busy this week. Jacob, thoughts on Malcolm Waymaker? Do you think Garbrandt wins this weekend? Van made me some money too. Yeah, Josh Van and Adrian Yanez are two of my favorite boxers in the UFC. Wellmaker versus, give me a second on that. I'll just pull those odds up real quick, guys. Garbrandt and Cody, guys, once again, similar to what we talked about with Buckley versus Usman, similar to what we're talking about Nonito Donaire versus Campos. If we're talking about Cody Garbrandt, former world champion. Oh no, Wellmaker's fighting Chris Matinho. Cody Garbrandt's Hani Barcelos. Okay. So guys, Hani Barcelos, he's up there in age. Cody Garbrandt, a bit of a dog. I'd sprinkle some money. Hani's not the biggest puncher. And Brazilian, it's almost even money. We know about Garbrandt's hand speed, but the thing, you can't talk about Cody without talking about his chin. If we want to talk about chinny, Abdullah Mason's not chinny, because he got Naoya Inoue's not chinny. Amir Khan chinny. Cody Garbrandt chinny. But that's from years. Cody grew up in Northeast Ohio. He's a Cleveland guy. He was a Golden Gloves boxer. And it's been well documented. Cody grew up sparring big dudes. Not a big guy himself, but he had a lot of damage from the sparring rounds when he got to the UFC. And we know about he was undefeated for a while. Cody's hand speed, ridiculous. Even after he lost his belt and, you know, he got knocked out a few times, that one punch knockout against the Brazilian at the end of the round, it was like the end of the second round, his name will come to me, and the guy he knocked out was ranked in the top 10 for a long time. When Cody slips to the right and throws that haymaker, bing, and knocked him out. So Cody has that one-punch knockout power. Every time he fights, I cheer for him. Not too durable. We've seen the lights go out. And something, guys, about the human body, our anatomy and physiology, and this is just from my experience as a strength and conditioning coach. And, you know, my undergrad was in sports psych, something I never talked to you guys about. Bachelor's in sports psych. I have a master's degree in leadership and development, but a lot of my classes early on in college were in biology, anatomy, and physiology. And when fighters get knocked out, it's almost like our body's nervous system has an off switch, especially if you've been knocked out a few times, to where you can kind of see the body reacting in a way to not want to take a lot of damage. So what a punch used to be able to eat, this used to be able to eat that. Now you don't eat it, and it's not a toughness issue. The body shuts off, and we've seen that with Cody multiple times. So that's always a risk when you're thinking about Cody. Let's hope Shakur's hands. Me too, gold member. Shakur, we'll see. We'll see. It's a good fight. Zepeda, you know, great fight. Both guys, I'm glad we're seeing that fight. Morel is going to be a much better fighter moving forward. Morel's fighting a tough guy, Aman Kataev, Carlos. Aman Kataev, like I said, he's going to be there. It's going to be a dogfight the first few rounds. It's going to come down to whatever guy's gas tank. We've seen Kataev fade just in his last fight, and Kataev gets hit a lot, dude. His head's on the midline, and he's trying to fight your ego. We'll see how smart that is against, what's your take on Zayas? Zayas is fighting Chino Garcia. Chino is the guy who just came off beating Charles Conwell, and he impressed me. Chino's fight IQ is there. He's good with his back against the ropes. He's a good counter boxer. High fight IQ. He's going to present Xander Zayas a lot of problems. In my opinion, it's Zayas' biggest step up. We'll see. Yeah, the African card I'm excited about. I'm not getting too many odds on it. It's my Thursday afternoon, guys. It's your Wednesday night, so we have time, meaning that we have a couple more days to see if our sports book lets us bet Method of Victory on Africa, because there's 3 fights on that Ghana card that, in my opinion, they put this Ghana card together with a lot of Americans coming down there for knockouts. So I see at least 3 matchups that I feel more comfortable picking the knockout than I do the money line. And Brandon Glanton's one of them. Cody Durden loses this weekend. So when you're talking about Cody Durden, the one thing you have to remember, let me see his matchup. He's fighting Jose Achoa. Jose Achoa is good. Cody Durden is grappling, his wrestling, his toughness. The dude, every time you see him lose a fight, you think he's going to lose and get cut, he wins a fight. You know, takes a short notice fight. We know what he looked like. I think he put his hand up to fight the kid from Louisiana, Danger. He fought Danger on like 7 days' notice and knocked him out. And so you never know what Cody Durden you're going to get. You know that he's going to be a solid grappler, a solid wrestling. He's going to have a gas tank. His fight IQ, that's the thing. Sometimes he puts himself in positions where he'll lose a fight in which he shouldn't have lost. Ochoa, you know, it's almost even money. I don't know if I would bet that fight. Hopefully Zerto stops running and faces Jai. Man, you know, I'm up. It's hard. Somebody was on the live yesterday, guys, talking trash about Apatai, and I don't know if he was trolling us, but Jai, and I'm going to say what I said yesterday about Jai Apatai. It's not just that he's athletic. It's not just that he has all the skill set and the tools. We know what his record is. It's that he's mean. Not all boxing champions are mean. Not all fighters are mean. It's just not in their nature. You mix the physical attributes and the skill set of Jai, plus he's mean. I don't see many people putting their hand up to fight him. Jai would stop Zerto. Man, Jai is a god. Watch how he trains, guys. Watch him sprinting. Dude, the guy could have played professional rugby. Zerto's the #2 cruiserweight champion under Jai. Food for Apatai. Slow footwork. Yeah. And Zerto, you know, the feet, the damage. You can't take too many of his shots. At that weight class, too, you don't really want to trade. That's why the David Morel fight versus Kataev, I could see someone getting stopped. I could see Kataev getting stopped. I think Morel stops Kataev. That's not my official prediction. I'm going to wait a little bit. I'm going to rewatch the Kataev fight. Zayas fight Carlos. I thought we covered that. Zayas is fighting Chino. I think it's Zayas' biggest step up. If the Chino shows up, the guy who fought Conwell shows up against Zayas, Zayas is going to have his hands full. It's also funny how people are saying Zayas should face CBS when CBS damn well ducked Apatai. Yeah, I think CBS with his, these guys were naming Zerto, that division. You have a lot of guys who just stand there and they're there to get hit. I love Benvdz, but Jai's the one guy I don't want to see him fight. Was David trolling us when he shared that? David, I would love that fight. I wouldn't write, it's hard to write any guy. When you're as talented and young and hungry like Benvdz, it's hard to write him off, but that would be a really dangerous fight for him because Apatai is another one of these guys similar to Hani. When you see how big they are, because sometimes body composition, it can be deceiving. Some fighters are built and they're stocky. I always use the kid who just fought this weekend. He won a decision, but a lot of people expect him to get in there. He was on the Norfolk, Virginia card. Troy Isley. A lot of people see Isley's build and they expect this knockout power, but it's not always the case. And you look at Apatai and Hani, they're not built like bodybuilders, but they're big bone structure, big wrists, big neck, and Jai is really explosive. In the prime of his career, he's fast, he has power, and he's mean. Is he getting publicity in America? Like, I know the division isn't the hottest division in boxing. It's not the most sexiest division, cruiser, but that dude, it's wild that he's not a superstar. He ticks all the boxes: athletic, explosive, physical, and mean. And we'll see what he does with the weight classes moving forward. What he does in terms of if he stays is good light heavyweight, but a cruiser he gets destroyed. Yeah, I don't think Benvdz could get away with how he fights a cruiser. You know what I mean? And I don't know if Benvdz would change his style. I'm not even, what we've seen, we haven't seen the power really carry from 68 to 74. It's only 6 pounds, but, we haven't really seen that. I think he beats Zerto. I'm not high on that guy. Yeah, I don't want to trash him too much, but everyone we're talking about, I don't see him beating Jai. Can't walk them. That's what I mean, Josh. So Benvdz would have, exactly, he would have to change, he'd have to make adjustments in how he fights. And we know about patterns of behavior. It's really tough to do as a boxer when you see how guys, will for the sake of a career or longevity, will a guy change when he goes up, or if he's able to change styles. I don't know if he's able to change styles. Possibly Apatai would do serious damage to Benvdz. Would you say Terramona is a potential? Yes, Mar. Dude, Terramona, I brought him up earlier. I brought him up on my first live stream. Terramona was supposed to fight on the undercard last week in Australia of Jai Apatai, right? They purposefully, management moved him to this New York City card. He is a nightmare. He's super athletic. He's a giant. So much hype on him down here in Australia. People think he's next up, and not a lot of people are putting their hands up to fight him. And there are a lot of heavyweights down here, a lot of heavyweights in the UK. He's still young in his pro career, has a lot of developing to do. By no means is he ready for like world-class level, but the physicality, the power, what he does, watch it. He's fighting this weekend. Tune into that fight. Yeah, I don't know if I'm sold on Itama even at the world-class level yet. I don't know, man. Is Benvdz still trying to fight Bivo? We'll see what happens with Better Biev at Bivo. How'd you guys score Bivo Better Biev 2? I'd like to know that. This isn't supposed to be controversial, but in my opinion, the way the commentary was in Better Biev Bivo 2, and when the decision was called out, and the reaction of both camps and the media, it looked to me that it was a foregone conclusion that people were just comfortable with Bivo winning that fight. It's hard for me to explain. I thought the first Bivo won. I thought the second was a draw. It seemed to me people were really complacent to rush to judgment that there was no conversation to be had, that Benvdz wasn't sort of, I don't know. Might be a hot take. Yeah. I wonder what Benvdz at 30, he's 41 now, 42. His fight style, man, hats off to that guy. You ever see the picture of Benvdz and Bud Crawford, and they're putting their fists up like this? And I have big hands. You can't tell from the screen, but I was palming basketballs in the 7th grade, so I could palm basketballs in 7th. My big hands. My dad was 6'4", big old Czech guy. Benvdz's hands are like that, dude. He has bricks. Bivo's too smart to let Benvdz pin him on the ropes. Goat, to put an exclamation point on the question, Benvdz, Bivo too. I wasn't mad with the decision. I just felt like it almost seemed like a foregone conclusion that they were going to give Bivo that celebration. Donaire Campos. Chadwick, I'm taking Campos. I broke down the video if you want to watch it. It's on my playlist. Do you see Benvdz try to do the grip strength challenge? I didn't see it, Kyle. But I already broke the Campos fight down. I think the 28-year-old fighter from Chile is going to beat the 42-year-old Donaire. We covered it a few times on did he break it? I didn't see it. Dude, his hands are massive, dude. And the way he punches just thuds. And his feet, he moves good. It's not like when you look at how heavy-handed he is, and let's say you never watched Benvdz fight. When you would watch him fight, you wouldn't expect him to box like that. He just marauds forward like he's like a stalker. As much as I like Benvdz, he doesn't stand a chance. Yeah. He broke Squeayo's jaw. I brought this up yesterday on the live stream. The most unfortunate thing for Squeayo was the ref. So Squeayo gets his jaw broken in round 5. The most unfortunate thing was what happened in round 4. Jai Apatai knocked him out in round 4 to the body. Clean body shot. Right here. Knocked him out, dude. The ref said that Jai locked arms, which could have been or couldn't have been. Either way, the fight should have been stopped. If you don't call that foul, it's a knockout. Doesn't call that foul. The fight goes one more round, and now Squeayo is eating out of a straw for at least 8 weeks. That is the biggest misfortune. And the wild thing is, 2 years ago, Jai Apatai gets his jaw broken in the 2nd round and fights the whole fight and wins. So he spoke about that afterwards because he personally knows what it's like to recover from a broken jaw. And I talked about this yesterday. All you have to do, guys, is lift of our jawline here, there's 2 little small dents. It's where your mandible jaw connects to this bit of pressure. It only takes about 4 pounds of pressure for that to break. So there is a sweet spot, whether it's coming from here from an uppercut or punching down. And so that was the punch that Apatai landed coming down because Squeayo is the shorter fighter. And when it gets broken coming down, it usually breaks in multiple pieces. This one here is usually a dislocation. That body shot hurt him, but he faked it. You think he faked? Yeah, the ref said that, it was weird. He said it wasn't a knockdown, but he didn't take a point away from Jai, for locking arms. He said that Jai was holding him here and then went like there. And the thing about Apatai's power is that he doesn't have to load up. Short little, there's some guys who could just generate power from a small amount of distance. What do you think the worst boxing injury is? The worst boxing injury, that has happened that we've ever seen, or hypothetically? Is that a factual question, or would it be a hypothetical? Because obviously dying in the ring, that's our, and I'm not laughing at the death, but I'm saying if that's our, A to B, other than dying, jaw, leg, knee, I would definitely say jaw. I would 100% getting your jaw broken. Just because, a knee, an ankle, a shoulder, surgery, you get released from the hospital, you do your rehabilitation, You could still smoke weed if you're a weed smoker. You could still eat. You could still kiss your girl. You could do whatever you can put whatever you want. You get your jaw broken, mate. That changes your day to day. Apatai or something with the eye. Okay, a broken orbital. Guys, I think I would still rather have a broken orbital than a broken jaw. Oscar doesn't want this boy to lose. I missed a couple things there answering the injury question, which was a valid question. I like that question. But me personally, and it could change. Derevyanchenko's bicep roll up. Yeah. Man, Sergey Derevyanchenko was a dog. Or do you guys remember, if we're talking about orbitals, do you remember, damn, what was his name? Ruslan Pvatnikov versus Chris Aljiri. Remember Aljiri's eye? That was insane. Aljiri had I think he had a fractured orbital. His eye was here. The doctor basically said if he dies, he dies. And Aljiri became a world champion. But Ruslan Pvatnikov, if you guys remember this, the Siberian Rocky, this was the early days of the internet. I remember seeing a video right around when Pvatnikov went pro. It was when he was like 8 years old. And it's Pvatnikov wrestling. This was the OG video. Before Khabib Nurmagomedov, you saw Khabib wrestling a bear. Pvatnikov was doing that stuff. And you see like how prime Pvatnikov looks like aesthetically how like Genghis Khan would look. Like, do you guys know who I'm talking about? He was a brutal fighter. If only he was a little bit taller. He was just a shorter guy, but mate, he was dangerous. That was one of the worst injuries I saw live when I was watching Pvatnikov versus Aljiri, just with Aljiri's eye. Or in MMA when you saw Michael Venom Page, I think it was a knee to Cyborg's head. I think that was in the PFL. Might have been Bellator. When Michael Venom Page knees Cyborg here and the whole head dents in like a plastic ball. It was disgusting. It was one of the most horrific. Or, since we're talking injuries, the first Anderson Silva versus Chris Weidman fight with his leg. That was horrific. Apatai's a high risk for Zerto. There's a reason why Zerto keeps avoiding him. Yeah, Joshua, I think he's pretty much high risk for everyone, right? Apatai, no one's putting their hand up. Wardley's injury was pretty bad, his jaw and head. Yeah. Forgot about that one. The jaw, man, I still would think the jaw. I would not, just, being hit, even now, like I was sparring last week, Clark, I was waiting for that. Even last week, I'm sparring, I call him Old Man Carl, and he catches me. There's a spot here. It's like right on the chin to where the punch didn't land flush. Like we're here and we fight a lot in the clinch and I'm kind of here and he catches me there. And I thought to myself, damn, that feels like it could have, if it would have been a little bit more flush. There's certain parts of the face that when you get hit good, it doesn't leave, damage, but you think to yourself, ooh, an inch this way or a centimeter in another angle, that could have did damage. So the face is, yeah, it's interesting. Now to win a fight, I always tell people, especially if I'm teaching them if they never boxed, aim for the liver. Because no matter how tough a guy is, the liver will shut your body off. Right under your right pec. Right nipple right here, right under there is where your liver is. And when you think about body shots, a guy would much rather be hit in the face, especially if you see the punch coming. You rarely will get knocked out to the head if you see the punch coming. Guys who get knocked out to the head are usually punches that the guy got out-angled on, didn't see the punch come in. Maybe they're exchanging like we just saw with Justice, or, get clipped over the ear and it's an equilibrium thing. Their legs go chicken wobble and then they get finished. But the liver, it's not a toughness issue. You get hit to the That's why when you rewatch Mickey Ward, Arturo Gotti, one of the only fights I can remember where Gotti got hit with a brutal liver shot, and we remember Mickey Ward, he was known for his body shots. And Gotti, I think it was in the 9th round, Gotti, you could hear the analyst, I forget, Emmanuel Stewart say, and that's going to be it. That liver shot, Gotti shouldn't be able to come back from this one. And sure enough, Gotti just toughens it out and gets up. You never see that. A broken hand never heals the same. Yeah, I broke this hand. So this is a normal hand. So notice that knuckle is normal. That knuckle is here, is not normal. I was like an asshole. I was street fighting in Long Beach, California in 2005. I'm squaring up with this kid, and this punk ass goes like this. He blocks it with his head, and I hit the crown of his head, and my knuckle slides down here. But as soon as he lifted up, I threw a left hook. So I throw 2, 3. The 3 landed, but the 2 broke my hand. Yeah, but I didn't become gun shy. But then again, I wasn't doing, I stopped boxing organized as a 15-year-old. So maybe that would be the case if, my whole career and I devoted my whole life into boxing to try to make a career of it, and I keep breaking my hand. I mean, you see this. This is why Floyd Mayweather went from Pretty Boy Floyd to Money Mayweather. Floyd Mayweather used to be a knockout artist. The first half of his career, exciting front foot fighter. People forget about that. Young Floyd, even the Floyd against Emmanuel Augustus. Young Floyd, knockout artist. Pretty Boy Floyd, get in there and outwork you, drown you with volume, and start you. And he kept breaking his hands. And it's well documented. He created a game plan around marketing. Let me become a heel. Let me win fights on defense. Let me improve my shoulder roll. And he had the speed and reflexes to do it. And it doesn't get spoken about it enough. The adjustment he had to make early in his career to go from a knockout artist, big puncher, to a defensive guy. And both of them worked for him. But Shakur, we'll see what happens with Shakur with his hands. Because damn well Zepeda is going to stay in his face the whole fight. William Zepeda's style, when I watched that, is insane. I remember he broke his hand in one of his fights and was still throwing bombs. Yeah, because you can, when your hand breaks in a fight, if it's not a boxer's fracture. So that's another thing. A boxer's fracture, they call it medically, is when the ring finger or the pinky finger, that knuckle gets broken. And that's usually what happens with guys who land wrong or don't know how to box. Because a lot of people who don't know how to box or never been taught how to punch, they land with these knuckles, and that's how you fracture the shit out of your hand. You want to land with the knuckles closer to your radialis. The thicker part of the wrist is your radialis. The thinner part is your radius and your ulna. So you want to land with that index, boom, maybe a little bit of the middle. So that's why when you're punching, you turn that punch over. The last thing you ever want to do is land with those 2 knuckles. So if you break that one in a fight, you could get, the adrenaline, the swelling, you'd still be able to throw it. If you break these 2 in a professional fight, that usually means the hand's also going to be fractured and you won't even be able to make a fist. So that's going to be a little bit tougher to do. You see that, and you see that more in MMA, that one, because the gloves are smaller, and a lot of the MMA fighters really aren't trained technically in boxing. And to finish that point, that's why Adrian Yanez and Joshua Van are 2 of my current favorite UFC fighters, because their first art was boxing. Yanez's boxing, mate, in the pocket, dude, so nice to watch. When he's flowing, one of my favorite fighters to watch. But I think Cameron Smotherman is fighting. Do you guys know about Smotherman? Are you guys? I know MMA. I know the regional MMA fighters. Cameron Smotherman is a guy who came up with Yanez in Texas. Shakur, this generation has the best. 100%. That I don't think anyone's arguing with there. That's why I like Shakur. As a young kid, I was always the smallest guy in the gym. Very small, late bloomer in terms of my physical maturation. So the defensive fighters were always my favorites. Pernell Whitaker was my generation when I was a kid. I'm talking 7, 8, 9. My dad would be like, Pernell, sweet piece fighting, let's watch it. So I remember watching all of his fights, seeing how Pernell, dude, when you watch his highlights, he would get into this side bladed split stance guard and just fight you here. But he was firing back too, but his defense was beautiful. He got robbed a few times. Jesus, one of the most controversial decisions I've ever seen. Sweet Pete, Smotherman. Is he out? I thought Smotherman actually put his hand up for late. Wasn't he replacing? No. Charles Jourdain is out. Smotherman is fighting Ricky Simone. I think. I thought Charles Jourdain, Air Jourdain, had to pull out the Canadian, and I think Smotherman put his hand up to fight him. Or am I mixing that up? Either way, it's going to be a tough night for Smotherman. I mean, if Smotherman fights Ricky Simone, that's a tough matchup. Because Smotherman is, Simone's been in there with, some of the best in the world. Great grappler, brutal, got pop as well. Smotherman's more of a striker. He's long, takes a lot of damage. The babyface killer, I think they call him. The babyface assassin, something like that. But it looks like Smotherman. Yeah, so that's what happened. Jourdain pulls out. Smotherman puts his hand up. Smotherman comes from the same camp as Adrian Yanez in Texas. And I watched Smotherman on the regional scene because I also watch regional MMA. Thanks, Carlos. Like the CES. I watch Cage Warriors in the UK. All the Texas regional MMA, all that good stuff. So I'm a nerd of the sport, not just with boxing. But guys, we're about 55 minutes in. It's the second live stream of the day. Could you please like this video? The first live stream always gets more pub, which is fine. I know it's later in the day for you guys. So I do 2 live streams daily, my 6:30 a.m. and my 11:30 a.m., which is your nights. Everyone hates on Shakur because he's the best body fundamental. He would beat Tank. Yeah, Shakur is one of my favorite fighters. I'm really, I'm a big fan of William Zepeda. I'm really fortunate as a fight fan that those 2 guys are fighting right now in their career because I think they're going to bring the best out of each other. I think both of them could use to sit, the thing with Zepeda is you can't tell Zepeda to change his style is super fan friendly. It's just that because he's so pressure forward, so much volume, he doesn't sit on things. Appreciate your 2 streams a day. You update us all the fights that don't get highlighted by the casual channels. Koki, no problem. No problem, DJ. Appreciate you guys as well. And as of late, a lot of you guys have been opening the door on my end for the UFC because I don't promote the UFC on my channel anymore. But as you can tell, it's kind of my wheelhouse too. So like if you do moving forward, I'm not going to promise you that I'll do edited videos because that's just, I want to keep it just boxing. But on the live streams, if you want to talk MMA, I can. Thank you, Raphael, man. Take care of yourself in sparring too. 22 likes. We'll get the channel up, guys. The channel's growing. I appreciate you guys. I'm putting another video out tomorrow. Hopefully we get the odds on Ghana. And let's make some money. We got this money. There's some NBA finals on right now. So I'm going to go watch that. All right, guys. I'll see you tomorrow.